that when you can do hand sewing, it is such a powerful tool. There are so many instances where I totally messed up something, and this is messed up like proper beyond actual recognition. But you know what has come to the rescue? Hand sewing. Hand sewing can cover a multitude of sewing scenes. You can actually do a lot more stuff and you get a lot more flexibility than you get with a sewing machine, especially when it comes to fixing minor mistakes. So that's worth thinking about as well. Improving your hand sewing skills gives you an extra weapon in your arsenal when you're trying to tame the fabric and the thread to create the vision that you want. So I just wanted to take 5 to talk a little bit about hand sewing, because one of the things that really gives me a buzz about my own clothes is knowing that I actually did a little bit of sewing using, these actual hands. And I found that lately I am wanting to do more hand sewing and certainly wanting to improve my hand sewing technique. And so I was thinking about why I've been more inclined to do hand sewing, and that's because one of the biggest things that made a difference was using beeswax. So when you use beeswax, your thread goes bone straight, so it doesn't get tangled up or anything like that. So it makes hand sewing so much more fun and so much more joyful. And also the other thing is that I'm located underneath the skylight, so I've got the light to be able to see properly. And I didn't realize that before. I was trying to do, so I'm just running my thread through the beeswax. I was trying to do my sewing in a dark place. And so we have that, and then I'll just run it on an iron, and then it will be bone straight, and I'll start sewing by hand to finish off the collar here. And I'm also, for the first time, actually going to sew my label on by hand. I don't know. I think it might be doing all of the vintage Burda, where I'm seeing vintage sewing things and just kind of really appreciating where this craft has come from before we got all of the sewing machines around. But yeah, that's one of the things that I need to do. I want to improve my hand sewing techniques. My top tip, if you don't like hand sewing and you haven't yet tried using beeswax, I would seriously advise that you give it a second chance. Get yourself some beeswax. It's not even expensive at all, and it lasts you ages. This is the second one that I got. Ever since I started sewing, I've been using this one, which I bought for £1.85. So I'll put the link in the description box down below. But if you haven't tried beeswax doing your hand sewing, do try it. I think you'll find that it does make a difference. Just remember that once you run your thread through the beeswax, you have to actually press it. The first couple of times I tried to use beeswax, I didn't actually press it, so I was just trying to sew it like that. And of course, it gets more tangled. So just remember, you need heat to activate the power of beeswax on thread. Also, another point that I would make is get yourself some decent needles. Not the ones that you find in a supermarket or a grocery store that say sewing kit. Those are really poor quality needles. Just invest the £4 to get yourself some really decent hand sewing needles that have an eye for a decent sized eye that can take good quality thread. And the last thing is a little snipping. This makes such a difference. You try snipping threads using your, it just doesn't work. So get yourself a little hand snippet thingy. And also somewhere to store your needles is really nice as well. It's a good thing. Don't just have them lying around and getting blunt all over the place. Yeah, so that's Hila's top tips to do with hand sewing, which you're probably going to see more of because I'm going to be learning how to improve my hand sewing techniques.